Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about the 37th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Fantastic Four First Steps. The day has finally come. We finally have a Fantastic Four movie that isn't completely terrible. In fact, one could say that this film is fantastic.
Say that again?
Before I continue on, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Also, feel free to check out my Letterboxd, I am very active there. Fantastic Four was easily my most anticipated comic book movie of the year. Yep, even more than Superman. Though I'd say Mission Impossible was still my most anticipated movie in general, my eyes were focused on Fantastic Four for the last few months. Everything about this film excited me. First of all, Marvel themselves finally had ownership over these characters when Disney bought Fox back in around 2018-2019. The unfortunate disaster that was Four Stick kind of scared off any desire to make a Fantastic Four movie until Kevin Feige finally had his hands on the IP. These iconic characters finally being part of the MCU was exciting enough, but the reasons to be excited just kept growing over the last few years. Matt Shakman was hired as director, and that immediately excited me more because he did such a masterful job directing WandaVision. Fight me, WandaVision is a masterpiece. It is utter perfection in my eyes. Marvel, please bring Wanda back. While Shakman hadn't really directed a major film like this before, his resume in TV is next level. One of the best episodes of Game of Thrones, a ton of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episodes, Succession, Monarch, Keeps Going, and obviously WandaVision. The cast was speculated for years, and once they were finally announced, it was just more excitement. They got a bunch of great actors, the trailers were great. Just in general, I was frothing at the mouth for months over this movie. This was the most excited I have been for an MCU film since probably Doctor Strange 2. Anyway, long story short, this movie is genuinely fantastic.
Say that again?
My expectations and hopes for this movie were sky high, and it managed to exceed them. We finally have not just a good, but a great Fantastic Four movie. Within the opening minutes of the film, I could already tell that this would be special. Everything from the visual aesthetic to the character interactions and the well-written dialogue, it was immediately telling, and I was locked in for the whole runtime. I fell in love with the core characters almost instantly. Their chemistry is excellent, and they feel like a real family. The love is genuine, but so is the frustration that occurs between them because of clashing personalities. And I have to say this, even as the biggest defender of the MCU in its current state, it is really great to see two back-to-back Marvel films with this and Thunderbolts that emphasize the characters first and foremost above anything else, and is really a reminder of why we fell in love with Marvel characters like Iron Man and Captain America. This film and Thunderbolts have the keep it simple, stupid mentality where the plot is fairly straightforward, but the characters are complex and tightly written. Look, I enjoyed Captain America Brave New World more than most, it seems, but there is a clear difference in the quality from Cap 4 to Thunderbolts and First Steps. I hope Marvel keeps this approach going with their films, because it clearly works and we could potentially be getting back to peak MCU phases, and it would be especially great if they decided to be nice to us and give us Wanda back. The casting is great. Some people were up in arms about Pedro Pascal being cast for Reed Richards, and I'll admit I was a little confused at first. It seemed like a strange choice. I love Pedro, don't get me wrong, but I always had faith in general. That faith was well warranted because he is so good in this movie. It is a completely different performance from what we are used to seeing him do. He nails the nerdiness and bluntness required for Reed Richards, but he also nails the desperation he feels when he's caught in two situations that he just does not know how to handle. He does not know how to handle the emotional vulnerability with his son and his wife, and he doesn't know how to handle the impending doom of Galactus. It creates a really great scenario for drama, and Pascal gets to really sink his teeth into this performance. Vanessa Kirby was my longtime fan cast for Sue Storm, and she crushes it. She gives a deep, nuanced, and powerful performance to the Invisible Woman and is really the heart of the film. She gets a lot of time to really shine, where she struggles with her duties to protect Earth along with her duties to her family. Joseph Quinn seemed to get some people mad over his casting as Johnny Storm, but I always thought he would be great, and I tend to be right in these kinds of things, and he was great. Not to toot my own horn. He very much plays up the cockiness and dude bro nature of Johnny without being overbearing about it like Chris Evans' version of the character. He plays off very well with the rest of the cast. He clashes most with Reed, and his banter with Ben is just so much fun to watch. And they also don't make Johnny an idiot. He gets one of the big standout moments of victory in the movie. Eben Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm was perfect casting. Ben is great in this movie. Here's the thing. Not only do they nail his design from the comics, but the visual effects really emphasize Eben's micro expressions that really give depth to the thing. There's a real humanity to him. Julia Garner was also excellent as Silver Surfer, and my god, the visual effects for her were just fantastic. There's a real level of regret and torment she has as the Silver Surfer, but also a layer of just straight up awesomeness that gives an excellent screen presence to the character. The action sequences with her are superb. Ralph Ineson as Galactus was inspired casting. His natural voice is crazy enough, and hearing it louder and even more gravelly in IMAX was straight up epic. The scale and grandiosity of Galactus is hyper present and makes him a standout villain. His characterization is simple but really works. He's basically just a character from the comics where rather than being a straight up villain, he's more of a force of nature, and Silver Surfer and Galactus were both the perfect villains for this specific movie. A lot of the humor in the film comes from the character interactions rather than any specific quips or jokes, similar to how Thunderbolts handled its humor. The conflicting nature of the Fantastic Four themselves bring out a lot of humor simply because of how different each one of them are from each other. They feel like a real family with how involved the dynamics are. And I'll say that this is a very fun movie, but at the same time, it is a film filled with tension and dread. The arrival of Galactus is imminent, and the plot mostly revolves around the characters trying to figure out how to deal with him. Because of this, there aren't actually all that many action sequences, and honestly, it really works for the film. It makes the major action set pieces stand out more, and the film in general kept me on the edge of my seat, even if I could tell what was going to happen later, because of the nature of this being a superhero film. The last time I felt this kind of dread in an MCU film was maybe Infinity War, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but in that film's case, it's more tense than dread-inducing, I feel. Visually speaking, this is one of the best looking Marvel films, period. Matt Shakman and his crew clearly had a vision for how they wanted this story to go, as well as the world that the characters inhabit. The color grading is vibrant, the cinematography is excellent, and the visual effects are stellar. Other than some obviously CGI moments involving a baby, the CGI effects are absolutely fantastic. Even the CG baby never really took me out of the moment. It was more of a, oh, that's clearly a CGI baby, and then I quickly moved on from it. And the world that this film utilizes complements everything else. The retro-futuristic style is just so much fun and creates for a really interesting feel. There are also things that occur in space, and those moments are spectacular. There is a fairly extended sequence around the end of the first act to about halfway through the film that might genuinely be a top 10 best sequence in the entirety of the MCU. It is quite literally Marvel meets Interstellar. It's gorgeous, it's tense, and it's awe-inspiring. It is genuinely incredible stuff. My jaw was open for quite a bit of that sequence. Also, see this film in IMAX, it is 1000% worth it. Some people might think that the final battle of the film is fairly standard superhero movie kind of stuff, and while they might not necessarily be wrong about that, it is still a stellar finale for the film. It is both a movie with deep personal stakes, but also a potential world-ending calamity. If I had any complaints about the film, I guess I could have used a bit more of Galactus and a bit more with Ben and Rachel, but honestly I don't really have much to complain about. I was initially worried about the runtime being under 2 hours, mainly because the MCU hasn't had the best luck with making truly great films under 2 hours. But after seeing this film, I think it was honestly the perfect runtime. The film flows extremely well without feeling like the vision was ever compromised. There was clearly additional stuff filmed, like with John Malkovich's character, and probably some additional scenes with Natasha Lyonne's character. But honestly, I see why they cut all of that stuff out, because I don't really see how any of that would have improved the movie. This is a tight, well-written, and fairly straightforward introduction to the Fantastic Four for the MCU. Marvel smartly set this in a different universe from the main timeline. Not only does this give the filmmakers a new kind of freedom that might have been restricted in the main timeline, but it also gives the Fantastic Four an opportunity to set themselves apart from other primary characters. Unfortunately, I was spoiled on the mid-credits scene a while back due to some leaks I accidentally read, but it is indeed a very exciting scene. I should also mention that Michael Giacchino's score for this movie is mesmerizing. I'm not gonna lie, I am very nervous for Avengers Doomsday, mainly because I'm worried Wanda might not be in it, but I am nervous for other reasons. The Russos haven't really had the best track record past Endgame with their films. But if Marvel can continue this current streak of quality films with Thunderbolts and First Steps, after the firing of Bob Chapek, which allowed Kevin Feige to have most of his power back and really focus on giving the movies time, then my nervousness will definitely be lowered for Doomsday. As of now, The Fantastic Four First Steps might be my favorite movie of the year so far. I still have to think on that, but it's a good one, man. Even if you take out all of the comic bookiness out of the film, it's still a great movie because of the characters. I highly recommend this film, obviously. See it in the biggest theater you can, ideally IMAX. Remember to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Also, Marvel, you better have Wanda and Doomsday, you bitches. Okay, bye.
If it is to be said, so it is.